Chapter 2101. When Tianming learned that the Edo family wanted to help Charlie find Warnia's whereabouts and help investigate the whole story, he was also scared into a cold sweat even when he was 2,000 kilometers away. In this world, there is no perfect crime. When they were planning to kill Warnia, they only wanted to keep the murder clues in Japan, so that everyone thought that Warnia was killed in Japan and had nothing to do with them. This was enough. However, once people know that Warnia's death is related to them, or even they are the instigators behind the back, then the trouble will be big. Not to mention that the old man will be furious, and the domestic law enforcement agencies will not let them go. Although they committed crimes overseas, in the final analysis, the killers are the citizens of the country, and the laws of the country apply. Moreover, once the outside world knows that the father and son killed Warnia, the reputation of them and the entire Song family will inevitably decline. At that time, even if their father and son escaped the sanctions of the law by chance, they would all be treated like rats crossing the street and be beaten by everyone. Thinking of this, Tianming immediately made up his mind and blurted out, "Honor, if you run back right now, this is undoubtedly telling Charlie that you have a problem. Charlie will call your grandfather by then, using your grandpa's shrewdness. To the extent, they can guess all the links at once, and by then, you will have more trouble." Honor choked nervously. "Dad, what do you think I should do now? The Edo family is too strong. With their help, this matter will not take a few days. It will come to light, and by that time, I will be done." Tianming immediately calmed down and said, "Honor, you first calm down and wait for my message. After I go back, I will find a chance to give your grandpa the medicine." As he said, Tianming sneered, "As long as I turn the old thing into an Alzheimer's patient, I will call you back from Japan on the grounds of his sudden illness. In that case, Charlie should not suspect you. At that time, we will sell all the assets of the Song family as quickly as possible in the country, and then replace them with US dollars. Before this matter is completely solved, we will immigrate to the United States or Canada with tens of billions of dollars in assets." Honor asked hurriedly, "Dad, how long will your medicine be effective after the old man has taken it?" Tianming said, "If I increase the dose a little, it will take a few hours at most. It is estimated that he will become a dementia patient tonight." Honor sighed slightly and said, "If that's the case, can I fly back tomorrow morning?" Tianming hummed and said, "If things go well, everyone will find that your grandfather is suffering from Alzheimer's disease early in the morning. Then I will inform you to come back quickly, and then I will urgently inherit the position of the head of the Song family. Hurry up and get rid of all the assets." Honor asked again, "Then what about uncles? They are all eyeing the inheritance. It is absolutely impossible for us to deal with it." Tianming said disdainfully, "Don't worry, they have long been looking forward to the separation of the family. Before, the old thing had been holding the power of the Song family, and they couldn't separate the family. Later, the old thing asked Warnia to take over as the head of the family. What I said, but I was even more annoyed." After a pause, Tianming continued, "And you know Warnia's style of doing things. This girl doesn't have a high pursuit of quality of life, so she wants to develop the scale desperately. She can't wait for all the profits made by the Song group. They are all invested in the new expansion. Everyone can't get any money when she does this. Who is not angry?" As he said, Tianming sneered, "If I inherit the position of the head of the Song family and I propose to divide the family, your uncles will never refuse. I will take a relatively large share and give them the rest. They won't have any opinions." Honor couldn't help asking, "Then what if they have opinions? What if they ask for a split by head? By the time we have done so hard, won't we all benefit them?" Tianming smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have already considered these problems. After solving the old thing, I will give them two choices. The first option is to continue to be the owner of the house. Then, like Warnia, I will put all my energy into expanding the business map. In this way, they won't even think about being allocated from the Song group for a while. Money, when they do not have it, they will continue to maintain their arrogant and $TFUL lives. Naturally they will be anxious to scratch their hearts. As for the second option, they voluntarily give up part of the share to me. In this case, I agree to sell the entire business for cash. In this way, they can get the money sooner and live the life they want." The total assets of the Song Group now amount to more than $20 billion US. In order to seek a quick deal, the whole package is sold for $20 billion US. The problem is still not big, and my requirements are not high. No matter how much it sells, we take half of the income and divide the rest equally. I believe they will not refuse. Honor thought for a while, and said in agreement, what you said makes sense. For them, there is no difference in essence between a person's share of $3 billion US and a person's share of $5 billion US. Anyway, with so much money, all of it in their life will never be spent. Tianming hummed, and said, based on what I know about them, they are definitely willing to sell some shares and get the money early, so that they don't have to send people under the fence, and they don't have to look at other people's faces. Honor sighed in relief and said with a smile, Dad, since you are confident, then I will wait for your good news in Japan. As long as you handle the old stuff there, I will return to China immediately. After returning, let's deal with these follow-up matters as soon as possible. Before the Ito family has found out the hidden circumstances of Warnia's murder, we will immigrate to the United States with the family. At that time, even if they find out that we are behind it, they will have nothing to do with us. Tianming also smiled and said, yes. Such a major case is generally not clear within a few months, and we don't need so much time. As long as 1 week at most is enough. After that, Tianming said, Honor, the only variable now is not the Ito family, but Charlie. This person is mysterious and scheming. You must not let him see any clues. Otherwise, if you are alone in Japan, if he wants to attack you, Dad is so far away, it is beyond reach. Honor hurriedly said, Don't worry, Dad, I'm already very cautious. In front of Charlie, I have been doing my best to make myself look more natural. Moreover, all around my room are living with my own people. They have also checked against eavesdropping. I will definitely not let Charlie see any clues. Tianming chuckled. That's good. That's good. You can wait for my good news in the hotel. Knowing that Dad already has a complete solution, Honor was relieved immediately. What he and his father wanted was not the so-called patriarch of the Song family, but most of the assets of the Song family. After Warnia is removed, it is naturally the best situation to be able to manage the entire Song family. Steadily, but if this goal is not achieved, taking a step back and being able to get most of the assets is already satisfied for the father and son. Therefore, Tianming is not afraid that the murder of Warnia will be revealed, he is just afraid that it will be revealed too early. He needs to win a time difference, which is enough for him to get rid of Mr. Song, cash out all the Song family assets, and then flee to the United States. The biggest question now is how long this time difference is. After all, Charlie and the Ito family were investigating this matter, and Tianming was also worried about the premature exposure, so he planned to do something against Old Man in advance. Quickly solve the troubles of Mr. Song, so that Honor can return to the country as soon as possible. Otherwise, Honor will stay in Japan, which is like leaving a proton for Tianming. In ancient times, two countries that were hostile or threatened to each other often sent protons to each other. The so-called proton means that the emperor of a country sends one of his princes to hostages in a hostile country in order to seek peace. If during this period the two sides are violent, the other party can kill the proton at any time. Tianming was afraid to leave Honor in Tokyo for too long. Otherwise, if Charlie finds out something and takes his son as a hostage or simply kills him to avenge Warnia, then he will be dead. However, neither Tianming nor Honor knew that the conversation between the two of them had actually been monitored by the ninjas of the Ito family. After the two had finished talking, all the recordings of their conversation were sent to Nanako's cell phone. Nanako immediately put the recording to Charlie, and Charlie frowned immediately after hearing it. Nanako sighed. Master is really good at everything, this Honor is really the culprit. Charlie smiled slightly and said seriously, actually, this is not a good thing. Just remember one thing, when you can't find the culprit in a certain case, the culprit is often the case's beneficiaries. After speaking, Charlie said again, Honor is the eldest son of the Song family. It is reasonable to say that his father should inherit the position of patriarch of the Song family. After his father retires, he will pass on the position of patriarch to him. But Honor's grandfather passed on the position of patriarch to Warnia, which invisibly brought a huge loss to Honor and his son. So, whenever Warnia dies, these father and son are the biggest beneficiaries. As the biggest beneficiaries, the suspicion is naturally the biggest. Nanako thought for a moment, and nodded in agreement. What master said is really reasonable. Sometimes, profit is the biggest motivation for committing crimes. Charlie said with a gloomy expression on his face. Honor and the two grandfathers did all the money for that little property. I didn't expect that they not only murdered Warnia, but also their own father and grandfather. It is really hateful. Nanako hurriedly asked, Master, what are you going to do now? Do you want me to get Honor to be deducted and force his father to surrender? Charlie sneered. This operation is okay, but it also has certain risks. Nanako asked, Master, what are the risks? Charlie explained earnestly. If Tianming is willing to give up Honor, then even if I kill Honor, it is impossible to stop him. Nanako asked again, Master, what are you going to do? Charlie smiled. I want to give them a bait. A bait? Nanako asked in surprise. Master, what kind of bait? Charlie said with a smile. Don't Honor and his father think that Warnia's chances of survival are slim. Also, don't they think that Mr. Song will definitely become Alzheimer's? If they succeed, I will announce from Tokyo. Nothing was found in the search. Will Honor and their father and son breathe a sigh of relief? Nanako nodded and said, That's for sure. The father and son may be happy to celebrate with fireworks. Charlie smiled and asked, Then what would happen to them if they knew that Grandpa Song was not demented and Warnia was not dead at all when they were most proud of it? Nanako pursed her mouth and smiled. Once such a happy and sad thing happens, they will definitely collapse. Charlie nodded. Yes. All I want is to make them happy first and sad later. As he said, he took out his cell phone and called Mr. Song. When the phone was connected, Mr. Song asked nervously, Master, have you found a clue about Warnia? Charlie said, Master, I am calling you to discuss something with you. Elder Song hurriedly said, Master, please tell me if you have anything. Charlie asked him, Is it convenient for you to speak now? Convenient. Mr. Song said hurriedly, I'm in my own room now. It has been soundproofed and it is very safe. Charlie said seriously, Okay, what I say next may be a bit shocking or even unbelievable to you, but you must not doubt it. Do what I say. As long as you do exactly what I say, not only you can survive, and your Song family can never suffer from future troubles. As soon as he heard this, Mr. Song said excitedly, Master, just give your orders. The old man doesn't dare to disobey. Charlie said lightly, I need you to take out the rejuvenating pill I gave to Warnia, and use a blade to scrape 1/5 of the dose and soak it in water for consumption. Father Song was shocked and blurted out, Master, why do you want me to take rejuvenation pill? And it's still 1/5. What special intentions do you have? Charlie snorted and said, 1/5 of the rejuvenating pills can at least guarantee that you will not be invaded by poison in the next 2 days. Father Song was even more shocked. Master, what do you mean? Could it be, is anyone going to poison me? Charlie said very bluntly, Master, from now on, you must always pay attention to your eldest son Tianming. As far as I know, he is likely to use some kind of nerve-damaging drug to destroy your brain. So, you take 1/5 of the rejuvenating pills in water in advance, and after you meet him, you will eat whatever he feeds you, whatever he gives you, you must drink it, and then at the right time, pretend to remember nothing and know nothing. Speaking of this, Charlie said again, or I would say it more directly, you are playing a dementia patient in front of Tianming. Mr. Song was shocked. Wait. Master, you mean, Tianming, he, wish me ill. Charlie didn't conceal it, and said seriously, from the information I have received so far, this is indeed the case, so you must take a look at what medicine they sell in the gourd. Oris Hill, Song family. When Tianming came back, he pretended to be nervous to find Mr. Song to ask questions. His face was full of concern for Warnia. Elder Song looked at his eldest son, wondering deep in his heart. He really didn't want to believe that the eldest son he had raised for 50 years wanted to murder him. If these words were spoken by any other person, Grandpa Song would never believe it. However, when the words came out of Charlie's mouth, even if he didn't want to believe them, Mr. Song had to pay attention to it. Because, in his heart, he knew very well that Master Charlie's abilities are all over the sky, and with his character, he would never say anything irresponsible. And since he said so, there must be some evidence. Thinking of this, while looking at his eldest son Tianming, he secretly thought in his heart, it seems that I really have to be cautious. From now on, I must have the spirit of 12 points. At this point, he stood up and said to Tianming, "Hey, Tianming, I have been exhausted by Warnia's affairs, and my body is somewhat unwell. Now that you are back, you will help me preside over the overall situation. I have to rest, the body can't hold it anymore." Tianming hurriedly said, "Dad, then I will help you back to your room." Mr. Song waved his hand and said, "No, please contact Honor quickly and ask about the progress in Japan. Has he found any news about Warnia? If you have news, please tell me in time." After speaking, the old man looked at the housekeeper Boyo and said, "Boyo, you can help me back to the room." Boyo nodded hurriedly, stepped forward and said respectfully, "Master, please." Grandpa Song stood up, took a look at Tianming, and exhorted, "Tianming, your brother left Warnia in his bloodline after he left. No matter what, you must let her come back alive, otherwise I will die and I will have no face to see the couple, do you understand?" A bit of embarrassment flashed in Tianming's eyes, and he immediately returned to nature, and said seriously, "Don't worry, Dad, I will definitely go all out." Father Song nodded lightly, sighing in his heart. The reason why he said this was to see if Tianming did this thing, then whether he has the last bit of conscience. If he still has a little conscience, he should let his niece go and leave his dead brother a queen. But if he said this, he was still indifferent, and even continued to murder him, then for him, this son could give up completely. Boyo assisted the exhausted old man to return to his room. As soon as he entered the door, Mr. Song looked like he had changed. He was sharp and alert, and his body was no longer as weak as before. He said coldly to Boyo, "Boyo, close the door, come to the study in the inner room, let me tell you something." Mr. Song's room is actually a large suite. The living room, bedroom, living room and study are all in it, which is very private. Especially the study room, which is located in the center of the whole suite, with other rooms on all sides as buffers. There is no open window, and conversations are difficult to be eavesdropped on. Seeing Mr. Song suddenly becoming serious, Boyo suddenly had a long-lost familiar feeling. Back then, when Mr. Song was in his prime, he acted vigorously and decisively. From then on, Boyo followed him and saw him riding the wind and waves in the sea of commerce. Every time Elder Song wants to do a big thing, he will look like this, with firm eyes and torch. He hurriedly followed the old man into the study, and then, after the old man waited for him to close the door, Boyo was shocked by the first words he said. "Boyo, start the monitoring system at home. From now on, give me a comprehensive monitoring of Tianming's every move." As soon as Boyo heard this, his whole expression suddenly shrank. Before he moved into this villa, Mr. Song specifically confessed to him that he found the best security company on the market and quietly installed a complete set of internal monitoring systems. A total of 4 systems have been installed throughout the Song family villa. The first set is a family security system to prevent thieves and criminals. The second set is an outdoor monitoring system, which can shoot all positions inside and outside the wall in the entire courtyard without dead angles for 24 hours. The third set is the emergency escape system. Once a natural disaster occurs, or when there is sudden danger, it is used by the owner to escape. The Song family knows these 3 systems very well, but the fourth set of internal monitoring systems is known to only 2 members of the family, one is Mr. Song and the other is Boyo. This fourth system is the internal monitoring system. The internal monitoring system monitors all the places in the entire villa in 360 degrees without blind spots. The concealed cameras are all very clever, and ordinary people may not be able to discover them in 10 years, and these cameras are also equipped with high-fidelity orientation. The microphone can clearly capture the sound in every room. The reason why Mr. Song installed this system is not because he has any desire to spy, but because he really sees more infighting among other giants around him. Some are even finding brothers and sisters for money, killing fathers and mothers for money, for the benefit of nothing. Do not use the extreme. Therefore, Mr. Song, who has a strong sense of anxiety, was worried that something like this would happen to the Song family in the future, so he specially installed this internal monitoring system to fully monitor the other party and gain insight into the other party as soon as possible. However, this system has been on standby 24 hours a day since its installation for so many years, but this system has never been actually used. Mr. Song is also considered a decent gentleman. When his children and grandchildren show nothing wrong, he is unwilling to spy on his children and grandchildren's privacy. But now, he has to use this system to monitor Tianming's actions, to see if he is not only the culprit in the murder of Warnia, but also intends to poison him. Boyo asked nervously at this time, "Master, you suddenly want to activate this internal monitoring system. Is there any major change in the Song family?" Old man nodded his head with a heavy face. "Boyo, you and I have been together for many years as a fateful friendship. So when there is a problem in this family, you are the person I trust the most, so I will not hide this matter. Just before Tianming came back, Master Wade just called me. He said that Tianming and Honor had harmed Warnia, and that the father and son wanted to give me medicine and turn me into an Alzheimer's patient." "What?" Boyo said dumbfounded. This. Master, are you kidding me?" Elder Song seriously said. "How can this kind of thing be a joke? If it weren't for Master Wade to tell me, I wouldn't believe it if I was killed." Boyo thought for a moment, nodded solemnly, and said seriously, "Master is not an ordinary person. If he said that, he must have his reason. You must pay attention to this matter. You must take precautions." Father Song sighed. "This is from Master's mouth. I naturally take it seriously, so I have to activate the internal monitoring system to see what Tianming is doing and saying when he is not in front of me. The difficulty of running a large family is comparable to running a country. Looking at the current big families fighting each other, it can be said to be exactly the same as the fighting between ancient princes recorded in history books. For the throne, the ancient princes did not hesitate to kill their brothers and kill their fathers. But such things are not uncommon in today's society, especially in large families with assets of more than 100 million. Although the sons of the Song family have always been very united and harmonious before, Old Song has always planned the worst in his heart. Now, the internal monitoring system he prepared has really come in handy. Boyo immediately came to the bookcase and found a secret switch. After that, the bookcase slowly moved to the left, revealing a huge display embedded in the wall. Boyo quickly turned on the monitor, and then said to Mr. Song, "Master, please verify it." Mr. Song nodded, took out his mobile phone, and opened an inconspicuous software from it. This software is the entrance to this internal monitoring system. To open the software, it must go through the same triple certification as the banking software. These triple authentications are facial recognition, traditional passwords, and real-time mobile phone verification codes. If one is wrong, the software cannot be activated. After Master Song successfully activated the system, the display on the wall immediately turned into a picture of as many as 210 small grids. The pictures in these 210 small grids are from 210 cameras in different positions. Father Song chose 4 of them, and the 210 pictures on the screen disappeared and turned into the 4 pictures he chose. The area of these 4 pictures is much larger at once, and everything on the pictures can be clearly seen. The 4 scenes that Mr. Song chose were Tianming's bedroom, Tianming's study, Tianming's living room, and gym. At this time, Tianming had just returned to his room. In the picture, he walked through the living room to the bedroom, lying directly on the soft and comfortable bed. When Grandpa Song saw his expression on the bed, he immediately believed what Charlie said in his heart. He didn't believe Charlie before, but he still wanted to hold a glimmer of hope in his heart. But at this moment, when he saw Tianming lying on the bed with stretched legs tilted and his face full of excitement, he knew that Tianming must have a problem. Otherwise, his niece is alive or dead in a foreign country is still unsure, and he shouldn't have this expression no matter what. Grandpa Song pointed to Tianming on the screen, and said sharply to Boyo, "Boyo, look at this beast. He was so worried and so distressed just now in front of me, all the FCUK is acting for me. Now he has this face. The expression on the face is the true portrayal of his heart. He is happy. And very happy." Boyo nodded and sighed. It seems that what Master said is true, the young Master does have a problem. Having said that, he couldn't help but admire, "Master, this internal monitoring system can not only determine their conspiracy, but also lock down evidence of their crime. You are really too prescient." Mr. Song sighed. The ancestors said that if people are born in sorrow and die in happiness, if a person has no sense of anxiety, what is the difference from the animals waiting to be slaughtered in the slaughterhouse? Survive in society. Having said that, he said with grief, but, I really didn't expect that my worries would become a reality. At this time, there was a ring of the cell phone ringing on the screen. Tianming's cell phone rang. Lying on the bed, Tianming immediately picked up the phone and said with a smile, "Honor, I'm home. Yes, don't worry, the old thing hasn't noticed anything abnormal. He may be sick for too long," so he went back to his room to rest. At this time, the high-fidelity directional microphone also caught Honor's voice on the phone, and he asked, "Dad, when are you going to give medicine to the old thing?" Tianming smiled and said, "Don't worry, there is no suitable option right now. I just told the chef to stew a bowl of bird soup for your grandfather. Later I will take it first. After adding the medicine, I will send it to his room. Watch him drink it with my own eyes." Honor hurriedly asked again, "Dad, how long will this medicine take effect?" Tianming said, "Time is running out. I give the old thing more dose. It should be effective within an hour or two after he takes it." Honor said with excitement, "That's really great. When the old things turn into Alzheimer's, Song family affairs, he will never have the opportunity to make trouble." Tianming hummed, and said, "Honor, you tonight. Take a good rest first. If Charlie has something to tell you to do, then you honestly follow his instructions and do not let him have any doubts. After I turn the old stuff into Alzheimer's, I will call you back, and then you can fly back to Oris Hill directly." Honor said excitedly, "Okay Dad, then I am waiting for your news." When Mr. Song heard this, he only felt anxious. "Really? This butler really wants to harm me. I'm his biological father. Now he wants to poison me for a little family property." When Mr. Song said this, his whole body was shaking with anger. He stood up, pointed at Tianming on the screen, and shouted angrily, "I have never done anything wrong with this son in my life. I didn't expect to give birth to such a wolf beast. I knew he was such a beast. I should have strangled him in a swaddle. And the butler Honor. I have loved him since the day he was born. I didn't expect that he would do such an inferior thing for money." Boyo was equally shocked and angry, but he still hurried over to help old man, and said seriously, "Master, the top priority now is not to get angry, but to think about how to deal with it." After a pause, Boyo said again, "Don't say anything else, you must not take the bird soup that he prepared for you. Not only can't it be taken, but we also have to work hard. From now on, all eating and drinking must be guarded strictly, and we must not leave him any opportunities." Grandpa Song shook his head with a sad expression on his face, waved his hand and said, "Boyo, since he already has the heart to harm me, if I keep guarding so strictly, it will let him realize that he has been exposed and become even more vicious. If he is not allowed to succeed, he might not just want to turn me into Alzheimer's but want to make worse actions." Boyo hurriedly asked him, "Master, are you planning to let them succeed and let you be at their mercy?" Grandpa Song nodded and said seriously, "Boyo, I have the rejuvenation pill given to me by Master. He specially asked me to use it to resist poison. If you want to come, Master should not be able to cheat, so I will give it to them. One will count." When Boyo heard this, he was relieved and sighed, "Fortunately, there is Master." Father Song couldn't help sighing, "Hey. Yeah. If it wasn't for Master, I would have killed the old bones. I don't know how many times I have died." Boyo nodded slightly and said, "Master, you have done good deeds throughout your life. Master may have been arranged by God to keep you safe throughout your life." Grandpa Song smiled bitterly, and said, "Boyo, if I can do everything, I must act as a patient with Alzheimer's disease. At that time, you must not reveal any flaws. The two beasts know that you are the person I trust the most. If they ask you about anything about me, you must know how to use wisdom to mediate with them. You must know what you need to say and what you can say, and let them know that you are loyal to them. But, what you can't say, don't mention a word. Especially the existence of this internal monitoring system, we must never let them know, understand?" Hearing the explanation from Mr. Song, Boyo did not hesitate to nod his head. "Master, rest assured, I must keep in mind the things you explained." Only then did Mr. Song relieve his mind, and then he waved his hand weakly and said, "Boyo, I'm a little tired. Go ahead and I'll take a rest. Boyo said nervously. Master, why don't you go to the bedroom to rest? I'll be guarding in the living room outside, you really don't worry. Grandpa Song gave a wry smile and asked him, are you afraid that you will not be in front of me when they give me medicine? Yes. Boyo's eyes were red, and he said very seriously, Master, you are indeed very powerful, but this kind of thing, I am really afraid that something will happen. Old man smiled indifferently. Don't worry, since some things are beyond your control, you must feel relieved and boldly give it to someone more capable, and then trust that person wholeheartedly. With that, Mr. Song said again, it's as if you have just started skydiving. Before you can accumulate enough skydiving times, you must be led by the instructor. Every time you jump off the plane, your fate is not in your control. In your own hands, but in the hands of the coach behind you. What you have to do at this time is to safely and boldly entrust your life to him, and let professional people do professional things. Boyo knew that the professional person he was talking about was Master Wade, so he nodded slightly and said, Master, then I will do what you said. Grandpa Song gave a hum, then nodded slightly, and exhorted, after you go out, do what you should do the same. If I don't call you, or if there is nothing important, you should not come to me. Boyo hurriedly said, okay master, then you take a rest first, I'm going out. Father Song waved his hand, and sighed softly, hey. Go. After Boyo left, Mr. Song has been in front of the monitor, observing his son, who he has raised for 50 years. The more he watched, the more he felt that the man in the video became stranger. In the video, Tianming repeatedly played with a potion in his hand. His expression at this time was not half hesitating, but some were obviously excited and unable to hold back. The old man's heart was dead ashes, and he became more and more certain that his son had almost no affection or kindness towards him. An hour later, Tianming, who had long been unable to restrain himself, was already unable to sit still. He didn't want to wait any longer, so he got up and went to the back kitchen. According to his instructions, the chef has simmered the bird soup with rock sugar. When Tianming came, he asked, is the bird soup prepared for the master ready to be stewed? The chef hurriedly said, I have to wait 10 minutes to get back to the young master. Tianming waved his hand. No longer, the old man is hungry, and he needs something to replenish his physical strength. Just serve me a bowl, and one will deliver it to the father myself. The chef didn't dare to disobey, so he hurriedly pulled out a bowl, put it in the tray carefully, and said to Tianming, Master, the bowl is very hot, be careful. Tianming gave a hum, then returned to his room with the tray. After returning to the room, he took out the medicine he had already prepared, and added one of the medicines to the bird soup in the bowl. Seeing this scene, Mr. Song gave a wry smile and shook his head. He was the only one in the study at this time, and he couldn't help muttering to himself, Tianming, you and I have been a father and son for 50 years. Since today, you and I have been suffocated. The past is like a cloud of smoke from today, and you have blown it away. It is completely dispersed. Afterward, he stood up, turned off the monitoring system, and restored the study to its original state. Then from the mobile phone, the software that authorized the internal monitoring system was also completely deleted. From now on, he was prepared to follow Charlie's statement completely, and to do everything. Therefore, after Tianming will give him medicine and before Charlie comes back, he will become a patient with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's patients don't know how to use mobile phones, so they can't even touch their phones during this time. Therefore, just in case, deleting the software directly will be more stable. Later, Mr. Song found the rejuvenating pill, scraped a layer from it, soaked it in the water and took it. Soon after, he went back to his bed and lay down. At this moment, the visual screen at the head of the bed suddenly lit up, and Tianming appeared in the picture, followed by a melodious, Turkish march ringtone. This is the doorbell of Mr. Song's room. Because his own suite was too big, when people were in the bedroom or study, they couldn't hear someone knocking on the door outside, so he rang the video doorbell. Seeing that his eldest son came to his door with the medicined bird soup, Mr. Song gave a light sigh and pressed the answer button. Tianming, are you okay? Tianming hurriedly said to the camera, Dad, are you asleep? Mr. Song deliberately made his voice a little tired and said, I was awakened by you as soon as I fell asleep, why are you so anxious? Tianming hurriedly said, Dad, I just saw you look exhausted, so I asked the chef to stew a bowl of bird soup with rock sugar. Grandpa Song gave a hum and said, "You are so caring, come in." After that, he pressed the door button. Tianming heard the click of the door and knew that the door lock had been released, so he pushed the door into the room, walked through the living room, and came to the bedroom. He stepped to the bed of Mr. Song and asked with concern, "Dad, how are you feeling?" Elder Song said absently, "It's okay," squinting for a while. After speaking, he couldn't wait to ask, "How is Warnia? Is there any news from Japan?" Tianming shook his head and said with a bit of pain on his expression, "Dad, there is no valuable news from Japan. I am also continuing to communicate with Honor. At the same time, I have asked him to find from the Japanese TMPD some specific clues. I will inform you as soon as possible." Father Song nodded, and sighed, "I feel more at ease when you came back." Tianming smiled slightly and said respectfully, "Dad, the rock sugar bird soup is very suitable for replenishing qi and blood. Drink it while it's hot now." A trace of sadness flashed in the eyes of old man. In the end, his own son still has to do something against himself. So he sat up without hesitation and said to Tianming, "Come, help me to sit in the living room for a while, I'll drink in the living room." Tianming was overjoyed and said hurriedly, "Okay Dad. I will help you to the living room." Tianming helped the old man into the living room, let him sit down on the sofa, and immediately handed over the bird soup with rock sugar, and said respectfully, "Dad, you drink it while it is hot." Without any hesitation, Mr. Song nodded and took the bowl of bird soup with rock sugar, took a sip, and exclaimed, "It tastes good, you are so caring." Tianming didn't expect things to go so smoothly, he couldn't help but feel ecstatic, and said with a smile, "Dad, what are you doing so politely with me, isn't this all I should do? What should be done?" Old man smiled and nodded seriously. He suppressed the sorrow deep in his heart and sighed from the bottom of his heart. "Oh, that's right, it should be done, it should be done. I have a good son. Ha 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 ha." Please subscribe and like to follow the next chapter. Thank you.